If I stand back, yes, then it focuses on the board. And we can talk about what we need to talk about. Let me put some lights on and see if that helps as well. Okay. So there's a little bit of a glare from the lights on the board, but other than that, we are looking good to go. Well done to the 5 people that managed to make it over. It's a shame we did have about 25 people in the last stream, which sadly crashed after 8 minutes, but I'm going to keep it going and we're going to pick up from where we left off. So today we are doing our Pobble Live, and we are talking about our little pink dragon. Here he is. Now, if you were in the live stream from before, you will know that we've already given our dragon a name. I thought about Bob, but somebody went for the name Johnny. So this is Johnny, the little pink dragon. And we are going to be doing a character description all around Johnny, the little pink dragon. Now, I've got the chat open here. I don't know if you can join in with the chat at the moment, and I don't know if that is live. So if you can chat, if you can add into the chat, and if there is anybody there that's watching, do you want to try and add in a message now? I'll just give it a second for anyone who wants to add into the chat. Just say hello or how are you doing? No chat coming up at the moment here. Okay. So I'm not sure if the chat is working. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to go through the slides. We'll talk about it. I might slim this down a little bit just because of the technical issues today. And then we'll get the chat up and going again next week for Pobble Live. I do apologize, but here we go. So we're going to do a character description all around this little dragon here, our dragon named Johnny. Why a character description? Well, a character description can exist on its own. So it can be just a description about character, or it can be a piece of larger writing, usually within a narrative. So why would I create a character description? The answer would be you would create a character description to put that description in a story. If you have an excellent story with lots of wonderful plot twists, but you haven't spent time on building a kind, likable, understandable, relatable, complex, or interesting protagonist, often your story just will not work. I've highlighted there the word protagonist just in case anybody who's watching this stream doesn't know what a protagonist is. So protagonist basically means the main character, the hero. I can see we've got 12 people watching now. Apologies again. We did go live on the other stream, but we lost that live video, and now we're back with a new one where I can't actually access the chat. So there won't be chat. I will just go through it. And if you follow along and write along, that would be great. Thank you for joining us. So we want to create a really interesting character for the reader, because if we create an interesting character, that will aid our story, and it means that the reader is likely to enjoy the story more and stay with us. In a book, we usually have many different characters. The two main characters in a book usually are the protagonist, and I've already spoken a little bit about the protagonist. The protagonist of a story is the hero, the good character, the person that the story focuses on. You also have the opposite of that in a story. You have the antagonist. So the antagonist is usually the villain. So here we have potential protagonist, a superhero, a warrior princess, I don't know, Mario, Sonic, whatever you're reading, whatever you're looking at, they are the protagonists, the main characters in the story. You also have in our stories antagonists, and antagonists are the villains, the bad guy, such as here we have, I forgot his name. He's from Marvel. Oh, and I don't have the chat either to help me out. What was his name? Thanos. There we go. We have Thanos, the bad guy, the person, the evil character, the villain, the one who challenges our protagonist. And then we have all the other characters that exist around these two opposing main characters. And it's important that we give a real life to all of the characters that exist within our stories, whether they be protagonists, antagonists, or anybody else that may appear within. Now, I was going to put this into the chat for bonus points. The bonus points don't actually give you anything. But the question was, who was this gentleman and do you need a clue? So if you are watching, I won't be able to see your response. But if you do know who this gentleman is, maybe tell the people around you. Or maybe when you see me tomorrow, now, because you're going to know anyway. But anyway, turn around to your partner or somebody who's there and let them know if you know who this is. I'll give you a clue. This might help you out. This is a symbol from one of this author, because this is an author. This is a symbol from this author's book or series of books. Because this author has written many, many, many books. And he's sold, it says it here, 400 million copies. So that's not in money. That's not how much money he's raised. He sold 400 million books, making him one of the biggest authors of all time. And he's a children's author. Anyone get it? Well, this is actually one of my favorite authors. He's an author that I bought books for when I was a child. In fact, be right back. I brought in to the school some of my old books that I collected when I was a child, written by this gentleman here. And they are the Goosebumps books, spooky books. And the gentleman who wrote this is named, right there at the bottom, R.L. Stine. Fantastic children's author, sold many, many, many books. Now, R.L. Stine believes that there are three places that we, as writers, because all of us are writers, if you've ever written anything, you're a writer. And R.L. Stine believes that there are three places that ideas live. Three places that we get our ideas from. The first is the imagination. And we all know that word. We know, use your imagination. Come up with something right from the imagination. But actually, the imagination is the hardest place to get something from. To make something up completely from our own mind is almost impossible. Because our mind is made up of all the things that we do, all the things that we've seen, and all the things that we've learned. So even if we dig deeply into our own imagination and pull something from our imagination, we can only really dream up the things that we've seen and experienced. So there are two other places that R.L. Stine says that we should get our ideas beyond just trying to make something completely new up. The second area is from our memory. And R.L. Stine says that it's important when we're writing, so be that a story, be that a character description like we're doing today, we should draw on our own memories to create a good description or a good story. So not just imagination, but everything you've experienced. And if we look at the character today, we can see that it's quite small, it's quite cute, it looks quite friendly. And so we can use our memory of experiencing time with animals that are also cute and fuzzy to explain how they might act and how they might behave. And we can use that knowledge to inform when we write about this character. Even though we've never seen a little baby dragon, I'm sure some of us have seen baby animals that maybe had puppies or kittens or little baby lizards that live at home and can draw on the experience of that to say how they might move, how they might look, the kind of actions that they might do. So that's two places where we can get our thoughts from. We can draw them from the imagination, or we can get them from our memory. The third place, and this is what I love to do in class. This is probably the best place. And it's a shame we don't have the chat going because this is what I really wanted us to focus on tonight. But it's a word that teachers use quite a lot, and that is magpieing. Magpieing is basically hearing things around us and taking the best ideas to use for ourselves. So what we do in class is we'll have our books out and we'll be reading. And if I find a really, really good example, I will read that example out to the class and I will say, isn't this a lovely idea? Isn't this word lovely? Why don't you magpie it? Which is borrowing that word and using it in your own sentence. But R.L. Stein goes further than that and speaks about magpieing actually being something that we do as adults, something that we do in all of our work and in all of the things that we do, because we learn from others. We can change what others give us. We can put our own spin on things. We can make things our own. But ultimately, we can take ideas from other people and we can use those as our own, as long as we are changing and we are doing it our own way. Imagination, magpieing, and memory are great ways of building up a basis for writing. I was going to ask how we would apply this and put that in the chat, but I just want you to have a quick think about that. If you're watching this video after it's live, pause the video and think, how could I use my imagination on a character description? How could I use things from my memory to help my character description? And what could I borrow? Are there books at home? Do I have a thesaurus so I can find language? Are there people in my home that I can talk to when I want a really good word to use? Can I talk to my older brother, my older sister, my cousin, my auntie, my uncle, my father, my mother, anybody who lives with me? Do they have ideas? Because sharing ideas is fine, as long as you write them into your own words and put your own creativity into it. Okay. So how do we build a character? Well, we need to focus on several things. The first thing we need to focus on when building a character is appearance. So what does that character look like? After that, we need to think about things such as the personality of that character and then the actions that show the personality traits for that character. We also need to show actions themselves, and that's how we could build a list sentence. Don't worry if you're not quite keeping up with this list or you're forgetting parts of the list, because I'm about to go through each one and give an example, okay? We could talk about the character's likes and the character's dislikes. We could talk about the context or the backstory, the story that comes before this creature. And we could add an element of mystery. All of these go together to build a good character. And we're going to break them down now. The first thing that we can talk about is the appearance. So this is what the character looks like, but not just what the character looks like. We can also refer to what they're wearing, the things that they are carrying. We may also use our other senses to describe the character a little bit. So what do they smell like? What do they sound like? Those kind of things. And I've put some words just as a starting point here. So I've put cute, for example. This character looks really cute. Perhaps this character is fuzzy, innocent looking, very sweet and innocent, wouldn't do anything wrong. Scaly, if we look close up, it has scales all over its body and its head. So maybe I might use that to describe a specific part of this dragon. Deep, I put deep when I was referring to the eyes of this dragon. So deep, dark pools for eyes. Soft, so thinking about how soft and thinking about those memories, like I said, of puppies and kittens and small creatures that you've had in the past to help you with the description. Okay, because we haven't got the chat working, here's what I'm going to suggest. If you're not watching this video live, I would pause it right now and see if you can come up with a list of words that describe how this character might look, how this character might sound, or how, oh, darkness, sorry, the lights have gone off. We're not doing well today, are we, with the technology? Let's try and get those back on. There we go. How this character might look, how this character might sound, how this character might smell, and write yourself a little word bank, a little list of words. Don't worry, we've got more words later, so if you're not sure, we can share those. A list of words that might describe this character. Pause the video now. If you're with me live, we'll carry on, and you can always refer back to parts of these and do the mini challenges later. So let's move on. Another example of how you can build a really good character description is to pair up personality with actions. Now, one of the things I get in class when we're describing a character is that children will say, we talk about personality and we talk about what that character is like as a person. And I would get words like kind, that character is kind, or that character is giving, or that character is sweet, or that character is mean, that character is evil, that character is wicked, that character is lots of different words that you could use to describe personality. But when we get to the actual character description itself, the sentences that come out are just that. The dragon is mean. He's not very nice. He's a horrible person. Or the dragon is very kind. He's very sweet. He's a very nice person. What we don't get is the evidence, the linking part to that. And that is where we're going to today pair up the actions. So if you are creating personality sentences about this dragon's personality, what you can do is you can add in an action after it to prove it. For example, the dragon was kind. There's me taking a word to describe this character's personality, kind. But I don't stop there. What I do is I add a semicolon, which looks like this. Can we see that okay? I don't think that's the best pen. Let's try this one. That's a little better. I might just make it a little bit bigger so that we can all see it. So a semicolon, which has a large circle at the top and a comma style mark down on the line below, can be used to join two ideas that are very, very similar. It can also be used like commas. So if you were doing a list, you might do a comma, and then the final item. If you were introducing a list using a colon, you might do the list with semicolons in between. So, for example, the dragon is pink, semicolon, has wings, semicolon, deep, dark eyes, and then a final item in the list. So you can use the semicolon in lists, but you can also use it for two sentences that are very closely linked together. And that's how I've used it here. So I've started off by talking about this character's personality. The dragon was kind, semicolon. He would always help others. There, I have given an action that shows how I know as a writer and as a person creating this character that this character is kind. This character is kind because he always helps others. Now, I could use a subordinating conjunction. I could use because, and I could say the dragon was kind because he would always help others. And that is absolutely fine too. But I've used a semicolon because I think it's a nice way to put two related ideas together, featuring personality and then action. Here's another example. The dragon was fierce, semicolon. Despite his small size, comma, he would defend himself. And what you'll notice is On either side of the semicolon, I've put complete ideas. So it's not a main clause and then a subordinating clause. It is two coordinating clauses. It is two main clauses that have been put together. But I haven't used a coordinating conjunction. Instead, I've used my semicolon. Let's have a look at my final example. The dragon is cute. Mistake there. I've put in cute. The dragon is cute. He would make adorable noises as he slept. Again, what I've done here is I've put the first initial idea. The dragon is cute. I've put in my semicolon, and then I've put a related idea, a full sentence, but joined because of that semicolon. So the first full main idea, the dragon is cute, can exist on its own. Semicolon, he would make adorable noises as he slept. Okay, challenge 2 then. If you're not watching live, you can pause the video now and see if you can come up with your own personality action sentence, just like I've shown you. If you're live with me, let's continue. Building on, and this is kind of just an aside, we're not going to spend lots of time on this, but if you are using actions, you don't just have to pair it up with personality to show what this character is like. You can also just list actions. Now, we do a lot of work around lists and building list sentences in school. And I think sometimes you hear the word list and you think single items. So, for example, Mr. Keeling went out and he bought a banana, comma, an apple, comma, a pear, comma, and made a fruit salad. Okay, or that actually that's better than the example that I wanted to give you. Let me give you a worse example. Mr. Keeling went out, he bought an apple, comma, a banana, comma, a pear, and a kiwi. That is a list of items. When we talk about a list sentence, we are talking about a list of sentences put together with commas, usually revolving around actions. So let's look at my examples here. Whenever he was annoyed, I've started that with an adverbial phrase. He would breathe in deeply, that's the first action. Scrunch up his face, that's the second action. And let out a puff of smoke. Full stop. Never a flame, because he's too young. But you can see here what I've done. Let me read that again. Whenever he was annoyed, fronted adverbial. He would breathe in deeply. That's the first action. The first action in my list. Comma. Scrunch up his face. Second action in my list. And let out a puff of smoke. Third action in my list. It's a list of actions with and instead of a comma before the final action. And it works just like a list of items. I'm going to have to keep doing the light dance every time the light goes off. Maybe we'll incorporate that. When we're live next time and we've got the chat going, we'll call this the live light dance so that the lights don't keep going off. Here's another example of a list sentence. When he was angry, so again, I've used an adverbial phrase. I've said a when open. I've used a when opener there. So every time he is angry, when he was angry, comma, he would puff out his cheeks. That's one of our actions. Ball up his tiny claws, like that. Two actions. And let out a minuscule, that means tiny, minuscule roar. And I find that quite funny, sorry, the kind of thought of that. So he's getting really angry. He's going to puff out his cheeks. He's going to ball up his claws. And then he's going to make it the smallest roar you can ever make. Why don't you try that at home? Turn around. Show the people who are watching with you, if they are, what your tiny roar would sound like. But here, what I have done is I've started with a fronted adverbial and adverbial phrase. I have then, after the comma, after my adverbial, because whenever I start with an adverbial, I finish it with a comma. I've put a list of 3 actions about this character. So puff out his cheeks, ball up his claws, and let out a minuscule roar. If you are watching after this is live, feel free to pause this video now and see if you can create your own list sentence for our dragon, Johnny. Let's continue if you're live. So another thing that you can talk about that gives your character kind of more dimensions, makes it kind of 3-dimensional and a real sounding character, and lets the reader learn even more about them, is you can just talk a little bit about their likes and their dislikes. Very straightforward and simple. So I'm not going to talk long on this one. I'm just going to share you some of the things that I think Johnny would like. He loved to read and to learn, but he always struggled at maths. So there I've used but to show 2 positives and a negative. I've also used and to join the first 2 things together that he likes. So I said he loved to read, he loved to learn, but he struggled with maths. And that's how we use but. So we pair it up with either a negative then a positive, or a positive then a negative. Here, nothing brought him more joy than helping someone in need. That's just a simple like. So our friend here, Johnny, loves to help people in need. More than anything else, he feared being alone. So there again, we're sharing his likes, we're sharing his dislikes. Okay, moving on. If you are watching this after it's live, feel free to pause the video at this point and create your own likes and dislikes for our friend Johnny the Dragon. If you're with me, we're going to talk about context and backstory. So even before you start describing a character, one of the things that you might like to do is you might like to talk about what happened before the story. Who was this character before the story? Where has this character come from? What is the story before the story? Who is this dragon? Here's my example. His emergence, so him appearing, is a mystery, and we'll talk about mystery in a minute. His emergence is a mystery. It is true that he was just an egg when he was left on the doorstep of the palace. And it is also true that the princess had raised him since that day. But as to how he arrived there and the intention of those that left him, nothing is known. So basically what I'm saying there, I'm giving the reader a bit of knowledge about what happened to this dragon before the story started and where this dragon comes from. But I've kept it a mystery. We don't know who took him to the palace. We don't really know anything about his parents or anything before the story. And that gives us things that we can relate to later on in the narrative. Another example, or carrying on my example, sorry. Still, he was raised with love and kindness, and regardless of his origins, these 2 traits, more than any others, had imprinted themselves on his heart. So I've kept it a mystery where he's come from, and I've said that he's turned up on the doorstep of a palace and being taken in by the princess or the king. If you are watching this after we've gone live, feel free to pause right now and have a little think. Where does this character come from? What are this character's experiences before you tell the story? Where is he now? And how did he get there? Thinking about a character's life before the story can help you as a writer make the character more real, more realistic. I mentioned this. My context was based on mystery. Now, mystery writing is one of the most popular types of writing because people love to try and work out a mystery, and we'll read right to the end of the book to find out if they were right and uncovered the mystery. So one thing you can do when you're building your character is to not tell your audience everything about them, to leave some things obscure, to leave some things unsaid, to leave some things a puzzle, and that will keep your reader reading. And although you wouldn't expect it, the baby dragon held a secret knowledge that would decide the very fate of Earth itself. So there I'm telling the reader that there's something interesting about this dragon, but I'm not telling the reader what that is. And that will keep the reader reading about my character because they want to find out what that secret knowledge is. Let's have a look at the other example. Even though he didn't know it yet, this little dragon had a special power. A power which someday may save the entire kingdom. And again, I am letting the audience know that this character has a big purpose, that this character has an interesting future, but I'm stopping and not telling them what that is. And sometimes it's really important to build that mystery around the character to keep your reader engaged. This is the purpose of all of the steps we've just looked at. When we build a character description, let's do the light dance. When we build a character description, we want to make that character seem real. We want that character to be believable, and we want that character to be relatable. And by doing all of these things, the appearance, building up the actions, the likes and dislikes, the mystery, the backstory, all of these different elements together, you can create a really interesting, well-rounded character. Okay, some ideas for Pobble writing. So if you're live, you can take one of these ideas and you can just start your writing whenever you want to at this point. If you're joining after, you can go through these ideas and whichever one suits you, you could write your own story or write your own thing around it then. So let's have a look at the ideas that I've got. Idea 1, just describe. I've given you lots of mini challenges there. Why not go back throughout the video and do the challenges? Come up with words that describe the appearance. Talk about the actions of this character and pair them up with a personality trait using a semicolon. Go back and try creating some of those sentences and just describe this character using all of these things: mystery, context, backstory that we've been through. That's one idea. Simple, straightforward character description. Another idea. I've given you here a story opening. Abandoned and alone on the doorstep of the palace, the minute, very small, pink dragon was left sodden and shivering in the icy cold rain. ... Tell a story of the abandoned dragon who was destined for adventure and greatness. So there you can take my starter, you can pause it now, write that into your book, and you can tell me the story of this dragon, whilst including a really good description of our character here. Another idea, you could draw comparisons. So you could write me some comparing sentence or some comparative sentences about this dragon and the kind of idea that people have already about dragons. So usually dragons are monstrous, towering beasts. However, this dragon is diminutive and adorable, so very small and very cute. So you could describe one dragon, a big fire-breathing dragon, and then compare it with this dragon here. That would require you to build your own word bank separate from the kind of words that we've been talking about today, or the kind of words that I'm going to put up at the very end to go through. You could create a song. Now, I've started a song here. You could use the start of my song and finish it off, or you can create your own song. But here's mine. Lost and alone, he was found by the king. Inside the palace, he learned how to sing. He grew to be mighty and fair, and to those who wrong him, well, they better beware. That might be a nice little start, and you might want to do rhyming couplets like I've done, build up to a chorus. And if you come up with something really, really good, it would be great to have you come to my class and perform the song to me or to your teacher, or maybe at the end of the day, when your teacher gives you time, you could perform it in front of the class. If you come up with a song, I would really, really love to see it. Whether or not you start with my lyrics and then build from them, or start right from the beginning and build up a song which describes our character, thinking about his personality, his actions, and his appearance. Some other ideas. You could draw your own character. Either draw it based on a description, so write the description first, and then from that description, draw the character. Or you could draw the character, and then from that drawing, you could write a description. So you don't need to use Johnny. Johnny can just be our example. You could draw your own dragon or your own mythical creature, and then describe that as part of your Pobble. Feel free to research your character. So if you want to draw a different animal or a different creature from history, you could research that creature and you could take different ideas. Read your favorite author and borrow some of their ideas. So if you have a favorite author and you know that they use absolutely excellent language, why not get a book, create a word bank from that, and use that to help you describe your character? More than anything else, though, Pobble is fun, and it's a fun way of us developing our writing, because the most important thing about writing is just to write. It's like reading. The more you read, the stronger you'll get at reading. The more you read, the stronger you'll get at writing. And the more you write, the stronger you will get at writing. So just have fun with it. Write as much as you can. Go back to the challenges. Describe the character. Describe your own character. Draw your character. And feel free to magpie the words that I'm just about to put up. Here are some words that might help you. A starting word bank, and you can pause it here to put these words into your work. But here we go. Adorable, meaning very sweet, very cute. Bouncy, so full of energy. Cute. Cuddly. A creature. Delightful. Enchanting. So nice and so magical that you're enchanted by it being there, its presence. Elemental. So you might want to talk about the elements, because dragons breathe fire, and fire is one of the 4 elements. So you might want to discuss elements, or say his elemental powers. You might want to discuss that. Fierce, yeah. Although he was diminutive, although he was minuscule, he was still fierce. And a word that goes with fierce, ferocious. A guardian. Maybe this dragon needs to protect something, is like a guard. So you might say that this dragon is a guardian. Maybe it's an imaginary creature. Yeah, it's not real. It lives in somebody else's imagination. Lone, being alone. Limited. Its power is limited. It can't use its fire yet. But one day it will be unlimited. Opulent. So if it is in the palace and you use my palace idea, you might describe the palace as opulent, kind of luxurious and very rich. Pity. Feeling sad for the creature. Pitying the creature because it was just left there on the rainy doorstep. Resilient. Perhaps your character or your creature keeps on going, doesn't give up, is resourceful, can use the world around it to create amazing things. Sensitive. Maybe you might use this really, really challenging word here, tumultuous, which means lots of things going off at once. Oh, let's do the light dance. There we go. Lots of things going on at once and creating a large, confusing sound. Yeah? Maybe when the dragon first comes to the city, you could describe the city as tumultuous, full of noise, confusing, loud noises. Underappreciated, versatile. Again, that kind of goes with resourceful, being able to do lots of different things. Worrisome, something that makes you worry is worrisome. Youthful, you might refer to this dragon's youth. And zesty, goes with bouncy, full of zest, full of energy. Apologies again that the chat wasn't working, because it would have been really nice to share some of your ideas right now in some of your language. But well done to those who managed to join this second Pobble Live. Next week, hopefully we won't have any technology issues and we can have the chat working again. I hope this is helpful. Please feel free to go back to any point in this video and choose just one element to do a short write, or go through the whole thing and create something really, really special. Thank you for joining us this week on Pobble Live, and I will see you next Wednesday at 5 o'clock when hopefully everything will work, including the lights. See you then.